We just, like, everybody was just running out through the back and yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. The guy was shouting. Boom, the guy went crazy, shooting everybody inside.
It was blood splattered on me, and I just remember just the screaming, and I was like, are you kidding me? Oh my God. So I dropped down, and I'm crawling out, and I'm just like, oh my God, please, 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 please. And all I could see was looking up because people were stepping on each other, because I got stepped on a couple times, and I was just like, oh, please, just please make it out, please, please. And then when I did, I saw people shot. I saw blood everywhere. There was blood all over me. I didn't know if it was my blood. I didn't know. So I was checking my whole body.
Horrific accounts that we have been hearing from people who managed to escape the Pulse nightclub. Right now, former FBI profiler Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole is on the phone with us. And Mary Ellen, based on what we know right now about this shooter, what is your sense of who this individual was, what he was about, what a possible motivation might have been?
Well, I'll start with the motivation. And with a crime like this that's so elaborate and complex, there would not have been only one motivation. So he could have disliked the gay clubs. He could have disliked the lifestyle, and that could have been part of it. And then it was kind of wrapped around the political and the religious ideology as well. So we shouldn't look for just one motive.
And Dr. O'Toole, as we look to this individual here who has carried out this heinous attack, clearly this is also going to be very, very difficult for the victims' families and also the gay community, not just here in Orlando, but around the country, around the world. What are people going to need to do to sort of work through this?
Boy, it really is. I mean, it's going to be very difficult specifically for the community, but very difficult for everyone as we sat here and we watched this horrifying event that these people are out enjoying themselves, having a good time, and had absolutely virtually no idea that a gunman was going to come in and do this. And I know people get tired of hearing, well, be on alert, and if you see something, then you say something. You can't constantly be on alert. But I think after something that's so egregious as this, we have to really understand that there are people who want to inflict this kind of lethality on us, whether it's at a church or whether it's at a nightclub. And we really do have to be very, very vigilant, especially when we're so accessible to people, like at that club or at a restaurant, because this will provoke, there's no question, this absolutely will provoke copycat crimes.
Mary Ellen, unfortunately, you and I have talked about these kinds of shootings many, many times before, but I'm wondering, based on your many years of experience, what makes what happened in Orlando different from other mass shootings? What makes it similar to other mass shootings?
Well, what makes it similar is that this was a very mission-oriented shooter, meaning he approached it as though he were on a military mission. He brought in two types of guns, one an assault type of rifle, and he brought a lot of ammunition. There had to be an extensive amount of planning that was involved, down to who the victims would be and the location of the attack. All of that took time, and all that time he could have had a reality check and said to himself, what am I doing? But he didn't. So when you see a crime that has a lot of planning up front, it does tell you that the offender, the shooter, is actually very comfortable with what he's about to do. One of the motivations was to kill as many people as possible, and he wanted to have credit for it, and he wanted to align himself most likely with ISIS. So it's that the notoriety aspect is similar as in other cases. What is different here is that in the middle of the shooting, it went from a shooting to a hostage situation and then back to a shooting. Until the case gets completely investigated, we won't know exactly why, but it's my sense that that was not intended for it to go to a hostage situation, that the shooter more than likely wanted it to be just a shooting. He had no intention of talking to law enforcement. His goal was not to go there and then be negotiated down or talked down. So that is different, and I'm waiting to see what the reasons would be for that to have occurred. But here's what's really interesting. He got derailed in the middle of that shooting, but he got back on track. So that shows somebody who was thinking strategically in the midst of the nightmare that all the victims were going through. So that should show us how cool, calm, and collected this individual was during the time of this horrible event.
Dr. O'Toole, excuse me, Dr. O'Toole, the FBI has stated that this individual was under investigation in 2013 and again in 2014. Now, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this just from a psychological standpoint. Even if the FBI determined that he probably was not a significant threat, but in this day and age, when somebody says something inflammatory, we don't know exactly what it was, but we know that it was tied somehow to terror, Islamic terror. And then again in 2014, he was investigated for having a possible connection to a terrorist. Is there anything the FBI, law enforcement can do to sort of put up a flag and say, because I just can't imagine somebody saying something, even in jest, without a psychiatrist like yourself saying, you know, we really should be examining this person and looking a little deeper, even if we go beyond just a criminal investigation?
Sure. No, the question really makes a great deal of sense, and I can't answer that question right now. But what I can say is they will go back and they will take a look at the 2 or 3 other contacts that the FBI had with this individual and how he was eliminated as being someone that did not pose a serious threat. They will go through each one of those incidents very thoroughly and very completely to see if something was missed, and if it was missed, how did that happen? Because rest assured, if there was a problem and we missed something, we absolutely can't have that happen in the future. So they won't just say that those cases were closed. They will go back and look at it thoroughly.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. O'Toole, is it your estimation then that generally in these cases, leading up to it, people say, you know, we never suspected anything. We saw it in Columbine. We saw it in Fort Hood with Major Nidal Hassan. But then when you go back and you conduct the investigation, it turns out that those signs were there. Yes,
I'm sure that will occur. But the thinking that has to precede these cases will go back years, where people entertain the idea of mass destruction and killing other people. And oftentimes that's very subtle. But that kind of thinking where you look at other people, like the people in the nightclub last night, you see them only as objects, not even as human beings. That thinking takes a long time to develop. But again, that may not have come out during the prior interviews with the FBI agents.
Mary Ellen, we're just getting some new information here from our Len Tepper, who is a CBS News Investigative Unit senior producer, who says from a U.S. intel source, the shooter called 911 during the incident from the bathroom. We are told that then the emergency personnel called him back, and that is when he made his Pledge of Allegiance to ISIS, as well as to al-Baghdadi, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, of course, the leader of ISIS. We also understand from Len's intel source that the shooter made 2 foreign trips, one in 2011 to Dubai, another to Saudi Arabia in 2012. He was not on a current watch list. He was on the terrorist screening database when the FBI was questioning him, but the source said that he was removed once the FBI closed its investigation. The 2013 investigation apparently began when the shooter told coworkers and others that he knew the Tsarnaev brothers involved in the Boston Marathon bombing. So with that new information, Mary Ellen, what do you make of those details?
Well, with those details, particularly the 2 trips that he supposedly had taken several years ago, that certainly does raise a red flag, and would certainly make him would raise him as a person of interest that really does need to be vetted and looked at. I don't know. My sense is that the agents that did the investigation in, I think it was 12 and 13, were probably aware of that. So I'm sitting here with you, not sure of how they cleared him or how they vetted him. It would not have been just with an interview with him. There would have been collateral investigation that would have been done to determine whether or not he posed a threat. But at this point, I don't know what that was. But it's certainly, on its surface, you're absolutely right. it does beg the question of how and why was he cleared.
All right, former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole. Dr. O'Toole, we thank you as always for your time. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.